Hi everybody, this is Patrick with Patrick Scale Studio. Thank you for joining me here for build video 12C. We're finishing up the superstructure more or less. Originally I was hoping to get the superstructure piece mounted to the deck and the hull. However, a lot of work still has to go into that, I think, before I really want to commit to having that forever joint. This right here is going to focus on some of the painting, getting some of the odds and ends attached to this superstructure piece, and kind of where we're at before we're able to get it permanently joined. Real quick, also want to give a shout out to my friend Ed Models Beer. He's working on a 1/200 Sovereign by Trumpeter. I'd recommend going over and checking out his channel. I will include a link to his channel in the description on this one. So with that, we'll get right to it. Just want to let you know. So this right here is the superstructure piece right now without a bunch of the little odds and ends added to it, and throughout this video we will see how we got to this point, and then by the end of this video we will have taken this assembly further with getting further detail added, some of the detail painting done, and hopefully getting ready to have some decals put on, and then ready to finally be mounted down to the deck and the hull. So a lot of it is going to be silent, or with music in the background, just kind of sped up a little bit here. There'll be a little bit of my voice interjecting here and there to kind of add a little bit of context into what you're seeing in the video. But for the most part, we're going to be taking this from video 12B, where we had the parts assembled. We're going to see some stages of black primer, then we're going to see some stages of this deck color going down, and then the masking, and then some pre-shading, and then a little bit of the XF12 going down on top of that. And then we'll also see some of the other parts getting painted as well. After that, we'll touch base again, and then we'll start going into actually getting some of the detail painting done and some of the parts attached. So sit back and enjoy. Okay, so this is where we start speeding up. Pretty much wanted to show off the airbrushing of the horizontal surfaces, and to me is XF53. You'll notice everything is black. It's because I started out with a primed bridge piece and primed superstructure piece, primed with Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, and that was just out of a spray can. I'm doing that outside, so I couldn't really film that inside, and much too smelly to do it inside. But you'll notice here, start with the bridge. I'll be moving to the main superstructure piece here, and just again concentrate on getting all of those horizontal surfaces coated with the XF53 in order to give that impression of a non-skid color. Somewhere here I have a little mix up with my airbrush. Looked like I had a clog in the nozzle. After I got that cleaned out, it was smooth sailing. Okay, next up in the speed chart there, you see me masking off the XF53 neutral gray with some Tamiya tape. The star of the show is going to be the Infinity Easy Cutting Type A cutting guide. Really, all you do is peel off a nice piece of tape, lay it down on the cutting guide, and you kind of want to try to line it up if you can. Even if you fail at getting it lined up completely, you can still use the lines and cut the edges so that you're getting 90-degree angles there. That's not hard to do at all. But as you see, I'm just kind of got a whole bunch of different tiny little pieces of tape ringed the border there of the roof of that bridge structure, and then I was able to fill in the middle of that. Again, that's just to mask off the XF53 for the next step in the painting. After we get the bridge piece done, you see I pull up the main superstructure piece. I had already done that well in advance of that, and that took about an entire day. I didn't bother filming it just because it was a lot of very, very tedious masking, and some of it I had to pick up, and it wouldn't have been great video quality, so that's why we don't really get to see that. But I got it done, and mission accomplished. Okay, so still in speed up mode. You may have remembered me saying we were masking the XF53 non-skid color, so we lay down the XF12. Well, yes, but first no. First we have to put down XF24, which is to me is dark gray. It's flat, and what it's great at doing is, without being completely black, it's really good at creating some color contrast and color depth. We go back over this later on with the XF12. It's a much lighter color, and if we put it in kind of a non-uniform manner, and we control ourselves a little bit with how it goes down, some of that XF24 will show through a little bit, and it'll create artificial shadows and give a little bit of depth and contrast to the paint. So my main focus with this coat of paint is any kind of corners, any kind of overhangs, or the bottoms of anything, something that people might not see a lot of, that's generally going to be in shadow anyway. So once we get this done, we'll move on to the next color. Okay, still in speed up mode here, and I know what you're going to ask. What is he doing? It's a black stick. It's just a black stick. He is airbrushing a black stick. Well, with the white towel down and my primer color being black, the contrast is so stark that the parts that are on that stick aren't showing up very well. But rest assured, there's XF12 in the cup on that airbrush, and that is what's going down right now. And in fact, kind of in hindsight, in reviewing this, it's kind of magical to see those parts just appear on that stick as I'm airbrushing them. I mean, that's like some Bob Ross Joy of Painting intro magic happening right there. And it goes from just a plain black stick to pieces popping out of nowhere, just from me airbrushing. So that's pretty cool. I'm gonna own that. I didn't mean to do it. It's just a happy accident, if you will. So that's right. XF12 is in the airbrush. That's what I'm putting down right now. So you'll note when we go into the superstructure, I'm going to be doing so in kind of a, again, non-uniform pattern. I go up and down, left and right, but mainly up and down. I just think the effect is a lot cooler, and it breaks up some of the lines of the ship. With all the decks and everything like that, there's a lot of horizontal lines to the ship. Up and down kind of helps break that up a little bit. It gives it an interesting appearance. It creates some of that depth and allows some of that XF24 to show through. So that's ultimately what we're looking for. And I think that in the end I got there. This isn't start to finish me painting that superstructure piece. There's multiple coats involved, and they got thinner and thinner to try to help blend some of that striated paint into a little bit more of a uniform coat, but still allow some of that depth of color to show through. So that's what I did with that. Okay, everything's been painted right now. I'll quickly do a rundown here of all the colors and everything like that we got painted, and then we'll move on. So first off, the majority of this was painted in XF12, but we painted that over top of pre-shade of XF24 dark gray. So we pre-shaded with this, and then we came over with this, and what that did was give us a little bit of color variation. We also, on all the decks that are masked, by the way, and you saw the two previous videos, all painted with XF53. As you can see, there's some white bits. That's just a standard XF2, and it helped to do this after the majority of everything else because then it was already a lighter gray. One thing I'd like to call out right there is these Aegis covers right here, which with the XF12, I added a couple drops of white and a couple drops of XF57 buff and mix it out to a bit of a lighter shade. You can see it's just slightly lighter. I believe that's just because these were different materials. As for the funnel stacks, exterior is XF69 NATO black, and the interior is XF1 flat black. And that is just for the most part just to make those insides of those disappear, but make the contrast not too stark on the exterior bits of it. So moving on here, I'm going to go ahead and get this unmasked. I'll film this while I unmask everything like that, but I'm not going to have the speaker or the microphone on, so I'm just going to put a little music on in the background while I do so. So sit back and enjoy. Thanks. Okay, so here we've got bead detail painting on the little hoses, the bundled up hoses. They're kind of scattered all about the bulkheads on this. I don't use any particularly prescribed color or already made color. I actually have a color that I made from scratch from Tamiya's X Orange. And a little bit of flat yellow to it, just a touch of a flat base to it, and just a little bit of deck brown, or deck tan, sorry, and kind of made my own custom color. That's what I'm applying here. Now, I made enough of it, I was able to save it in an empty Tamiya bottle, and it's going to serve me through the rest of this build. So that's all we're showing here, is just some speed detail painting on the hoses. Okay, so now we're painting the what do they call lifesavers or life rings. Again, I'm not using any prescribed colors or anything like that. I did a self mix using Tamiya's XF Red and Tamiya's XF3, almost half and half, but I added a little bit more, just a touch more red, because in pictures studied online, it looks like these are a little bit more of a red-orange rather than just an actual orange. So that's all we're doing, is painting these little life rings, and later on I'll go back and add the white stripes. I didn't think that was necessary to show here. It's pretty quick and painless. So that's all this is. Okay, so those upper bracket portions of those hoses, as seen on the real thing, are red. Gundam markers come in handy big time here, so you don't have to necessarily dig out that paintbrush and the paint and the thinner to clean your brush off and go through all that rigmarole. Gundam markers, they come in many different sizes, very handy for stuff like this. Also, for you Grumman Navy airplane painters, fun with the landing gear doors? Yep. Okay, so go ahead and start talking through putting some of this together now. By the way, masking turned out really nicely on this piece. Go ahead and do this right now because I'm not overly concerned about what's going on at the top. Plus, it'll give me a little bit more place to hold this part when I'm applying the windows and such. But yeah, we've got a little bit of medium CA glue here. So I'm just going to dip each of the little locating pegs in the bottom of this and seat it right in there. That's on there. This back one, I'm go ahead and do it first, so I'm not worried about putting anything between these two parts. We'll CA glue there on the locating peg. I'm going to put this in diagonally. When I say diagonally, I'm talking about the little cross bracing on the bottom of this. That's on. And we'll go ahead and do this here. Same thing. CA glue, locating pegs. And there we go. That's on there. So, for the most part, got this all put together and caught up to where we're at this point. Alrighty, one of the other things we want to do, and I've been looking forward to doing, is getting these covers on for the Aegis radar system. Go ahead and have a quick look at what they look like in place beforehand. You can see just a touch different color-wise, just bare difference there. I think those will look nice and stand out nicely. And again, the color difference is just because I believe these were made out of different material than the rest of the superstructure, and sun and cold heats and cools things and causes weird things to happen to the paint and primer or whatever is on whatever those devices are. So go ahead, and again, I've got some medium CA glue for this operation. So I'm going to go ahead and do one at a time. Probably just do one here, show you how that goes, and then move on to get the others. Just do the others here on my own, off camera, or maybe just after this sped up, and a little bit of fast forward action. There we go. CA glue on the toothpick. Now, mind you, this isn't something where we need to completely encase this perimeter. It's CA glue. And it's not like we're going to be touching this area of the model a whole lot. So it shouldn't be necessary to put any kind of real structural integrity into this, just as much as we want to make sure that these stick down and don't move around afterwards. Okay, that one's on. Not moving. That looks pretty nice. Go ahead and do the other. Alrighty, and sorry, I did most of this without any real filming or anything like that. I'm putting it together, but I think it's pretty easy to get the gist of what's going on here. The main R2D2 looking part is all one piece, that with a little box underneath and a little drum underneath, and that goes in between the mount right here, which has got two pivot points. The barrel's a separate part, and then you've got this photo etched cage-like piece that just slides on over top of the photo etch and goes on down over that. In painting this, I did black base this with some black primer. Then everything got that XF12 light gray paint on it. Then the white came next. And there was, I believe there's actually already video of this, there was a custom mix of white that I ended up applying. If you look at the pictures of the real thing, there's like off-colored white panels on either side of this. So I tried to replicate that. It's not super noticeable, so it's the color difference is real slight, but I just wanted to see if I could do it. And then there's another little piece right here. I guess it's kind of probably a sighting system or something like that. And it's got a tiny little photo etch disc that goes on the plastic part. I left a little nub on here for painting to make it easier. So we'll go ahead and get this stuck on now. This is definitely going to be a job for tweezers. Alrighty, as always, I'm going to check reference real quick just to make sure I've got this lined up correctly. And it looks like, yeah, just as I suspected, it looks like. There we go. Actually need to hold it that way. Dab of CA. Remember, in times like this, a lot of times less is more. Alright. And it's on there. So there you have it. I might actually revisit this. It doesn't feel like this is seating in there as well as it should, so I might pull that apart and reseat that. I'll let you know by the end if I do. Some of the tolerances in the fit on this are pretty tight, and the paint and the primer can throw that off just slightly. So it's a good thing. It's just something to be mindful of when putting together. So. Now, you may recall from previous episodes that I opted on page 19 to skip adding Q31 along with the Photo Etch D68 as a combined piece. I opted to leave that off until now. One, because the top side of this needs to get masked in the non-skid gray. The rest of it gets painted the regular vertical surfaces XF12. So that's the reason why I left it off. It would have been just about impossible to mask where it was. It would have been impossible to paint the deck underneath it where it was. But the difficulty there with that is once that's in place, that piece obviously spans in between this and this funnel piece right here. But even then, even if you're following the workflow set forth by ILO Kit, it still doesn't make sense though, because that little piece sits on top of a ledge that you're adding after the fact. So, it's kind of how best you feel in getting that attached and that accomplished. I just went ahead and put that on there. And I did so off camera, and it's just because if I tried to do it on camera, I'm sure either the glue would have gone all over the place because I used super thin CA, or some other catastrophe, the legs buckling or something like that. It's things being done on camera should be simple. That way we can avoid screwing them up while we're on camera. But at any rate, it's on there now. It looks pretty good in place. Might need a touch up, and there is a little bit of super thin CA there on the back side. Definitely, it's not the most ideal piece to put in place, and it's not the most ideal way they've got that engineered. But we managed with the super thin CA on there. That should get masked when we clear coat all of this anyway. So. That's not of grave concern. It's super thin, so it's not leaving any kind of raised bump or any relief or anything like that on the surface. But that is done. I was dreading that. I'm happy it's done, and it's in place. So the only other times we got to go back and touch that is for a couple little ladders and then some little guardrails. Okay, we are going to try to do something a little more complicated here while we're on camera, and that is adding that set of stairs back there. Wish me luck. Let's do it like this. Alright, that is medium CA. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, that went down smooth. I'm going to go ahead and get the other ladder. There's another ladder that comes from here down to the side, but I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. It's actually easier than that one, so let your imagination run wild. Okay, it's also important to note that before we put down, there's a set of stairs that goes right here, along with the chaff dispensers. There are a couple of D20, part D20, that's these teeny tiny little fire hydrant looking things. We've got 5 of these and all these steps that we have gone past because we had to get the non-skid painted. So one there, and one there, and one there. So I'm going to go ahead and get these put in here, just in fast forward. There's nothing real special about these other than getting them in. And then when they're all said and done, we'll paint the tops of them red. So the previous one I was trying to put in, and it did not go in very well without some enlarging of the hole. So this is a good, fine example of where we can see that the fit tolerances is enough to warrant making sure you can either get in and clean out the paint, or you can enlarge the hole enough with the paint in order to make sure that the fit will happen the way you're expecting it to happen before you get a little bit of super glue on the part and then have to worry about going back and touching up, as happened to me just then. So go ahead and work on getting that part or that hole enlarged. Luckily I can do this from the bottom side. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and try a dry fit. Okay, and that's happy. So I'm going to go ahead and get that fit in here, because we've got a good positive fit now. Again, we're going to have to go back and work on these other holes a bit. So we don't have the same experience, especially in such a very visible area right there. This is going to be right up front, going to be very, very visible. So we don't want any huge touch-up problems. We want the paint to look really nice and good, smooth, without any problems, any scratches. Okay, so those holes are enlarged now. Go ahead and proceed with getting these parts in there. Again, test fit. Looks like it's a good fit. Alright, as much as everyone preaches test fit, test fit, test fit, and I always tell it to myself, there's fine times where you're not listening to your own advice first and then end up having a blunder like that. So that's what you get. There's that one. Good fit. but that's part of life. Learning from and owning and learning from. So, like that. I'm going to straighten this one out a little bit more. You can see I'm going to have a lot of fun getting a tiny little paintbrush and trying to touch that up nicely. Looks like this one didn't even go in enough. Yep, as evidenced by it just completely falling out. So that was brilliant, Patrick. Yeah, I'd like to get done with having to mess with these holes in the bottom side before I end up breaking a bunch of stuff off that I don't really want to break off. Because I have noticed prior to my initial examination or thoughts on the kit, there are some spare parts here and there for really teeny tiny parts, but for the big noticeable parts that matter, like these, you don't get extras, you don't get do-overs. You get what they get. You get what is in the instructions and what they show you, and that's that. So no do-overs. Alright, hey, check it out. It actually fits like it's supposed to. Because I actually did what I should and made sure the part will fit before trying to fit it. So, cool. D20s are in. Okay, so one nice thing I noticed before I got in there, the paintbrush for the touch-up back there was, tried fitting this to see if that would take care of that, and that does. That largely hides the scratch and everything back there, so we'll never notice that again. So, saving grace. A couple other fun little parts that are in store for us here before we fit the close-in weapon system is Photo Etch D77 and Photo Etch D18. Went ahead and coated both of these with a Mr. Metal primer, and then I painted them, so I'll go ahead and work on getting those into place next. Yay, that went without a hitch. Whew. Wish me luck on the other one, which is much more small and fragile. Can you see that? Yep, here it is. That's it. And it goes right back here. And it looks like, for the most part, it is just a handhold for this ladder on the starboard side of this little box area for the close-in weapon system. So, and it says I'm going to be so much fun to put in. And that sounds like I am complaining. I'm not really. That is just sarcasm. This is absolutely enjoyable. I love doing this. This is my favorite hobby and pastime. And again, I should play the lottery tonight. Most of these photo etch pieces are going in pretty smoothly. There we go. Outstanding. Now with that, I can put in our close-in weapon system, which is right here. Ta-da! And yeah, I did have to, I think I mentioned earlier, I might have to redo it. I did have to redo that so it fits in there better. I redid that, got it in there. It's looking good, looking nice. So I'll go ahead and put him in here. The lovely thing about this is the fit is already pretty tight. I shouldn't have too much need of any glue. Oh, look at that, Patrick's speaking way too soon. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and put some actual glue on there. Now the shame of this is once you put glue down and put this in place, it's not moving again. Sure, I can swivel the fixture up and down a little bit, but traverse it from port to starboard and back, not a chance. Okay, one thing I want to go ahead and start on now and give it time to dry is getting this ship's bell chrome. All the pictures that I've seen show a very, very shiny silver color, not brass. If you haven't used one of these before, I highly recommend it. Liquid Chrome Mirror Effect, Molotov. It's outstanding. You can see how shiny that is right now. Just a joy to use. Any of the modelers out there for aircraft or cars or anything that needs chrome or something shiny like mirrors, rear view mirrors, anything like that, this is wonderful. It produces a pretty good effect, almost a scale mirror effect. Absolutely highly recommend it. The pens aren't cheap, but this is the only thing I've found that really does an amazing job on something that kind of a scale. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside and let it dry. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and complete a lot of the pieces that went into page 16, step 16, with B54, this little pipe here, and then this assembly right there, and this assembly right here. So go ahead and get work on those. As I go, I'll let you know. I've already checked and made sure that the holes that those are going to go into a proper size so that will fit in there without a trouble. So, and yeah, I took off the glove. These things make your hands sweat after a minute. All right. You know, from just looking at this from afar, at this destroyer, and I remember even when I was young and I was reading books about warships, everything I saw on this, it always looked so smooth, so perfectly smooth. I had these hexagonal pieces right now, octagonal pieces right there. It kind of really made it stand out, but for the most part, everything looked so smooth on it. It didn't look like it had all these little pieces and all this little detail right there. So, in hindsight, when you're at that kind of an age, it's kind of easy to get lost in the awe of seeing something like this. I guess you have a habit of missing detail like that when you're young. And when you're trying to put together large model kits of it, there's no such thing as missing it. So we'll go ahead and get this guy in. Now the interesting thing about this part is he's got this little bipod on there also to kind of help him stand up. So I'm going to kind of get a little bit of glue on those feet, and then we want to try to get this in without scooting it too much, even though there might be a little bit of scooting it. And that's how I've seen it look in all the reference pictures. With this, it shouldn't be resting against this hose. This hose is a non-rigid hose, so it should be kind of tied up to there, at least from what I've seen in all the reference pictures. So that one, very smooth. Again, I should probably get some lottery tickets tonight. Go ahead and work on getting this one in place. Here we go with the test fitting. Amazing, amazing. What kind of results you get when you follow basic modeling procedures. Suppose again you could say it was the inner child in me wanting to slap it all together as quick as possible. It's just so cool to be able to put together a model kit like this as an adult. When the ship model kits, you know, when I was really tiny, were 1/400th Revelle, Arizona, or Missouri, something like that, 1/425th Missouri. Those weird, odd Revelle box scales. I went ahead and got this railing around there. It was a pretty delicate piece. I didn't want to try that on camera. The old saying, don't push your luck, kind of applied there, especially after just the other night having, well, just last night in fact, having tornado sirens ringing through the air and bringing everyone awake. So went ahead and did that one off camera. Okay, the bell is now dry enough, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little super glue on there and get it put into place. And once in place, I'll probably actually go over it again with the Molotov pen. The luster of the chrome is, unless you've actually worked with it before and seen it in person, it's hard to describe adequately. It's hard to give it proper credit. But again, just checking out the references, and I especially love the pictures on the website. I always include in my video description, because it is a website with pictures that I refer to consistently, video in, video out. Anytime I look at anything in these instructions, I go and I look for pictures. I want to see that the part actually looks somewhat like it's supposed to look in real life before I go about figuring out how I'm going to apply it to this kit and this model. So those pictures show that bell very, very, very shiny in a silver metallic color, not a brass metallic color. So I have acted accordingly. After that super glue sets up, I'll probably go over it again with, again, this Molotov liquid chrome mirror effect pen, and it really does the trick. Sets that off nicely. Okay, so the next things we've got to put in here that we've skipped over are these. They're painted white. I was told in the last video comments that these are actually gray, but they've got white shields for the sun, and they store their chaff rounds and ammunition. So we're going to go ahead and leave them as is. We're not going to super detail them up or anything like that. Just for this first go around, I've tried to do as much as I can out of the kit for what it's worth, just to kind of get an idea. If you've done like me and you've taken all these off the sprues, so you no longer have part numbers next to them, a couple quick tips here in getting them aligned properly. One, all the hinges are aft; they face aft. Two, the cabinets with the little hoses on them, they are the aftmost cabinets. And then three, you can see some of these are different sizes. This, of course, would go in the middle on the starboard side. This will go up front most on the starboard side. No, on the port side, because I'm looking at the hinges. So I'm going to go ahead and got this ladder put in off camera. I don't need just a bit of touch up right there. But that's right now in place, so I can go ahead and get the chaff dispensers put into place as well. So, and this is going to be something I'm going to definitely test fit, just to make sure that those holes are going to line up and they're going to be open up enough to be able to put those in without any trouble. So go ahead and start with the first one here. And this is definitely something where I wanted to get the stairs in first, which would allow me to make sure that I don't have to worry about putting those in after chaff dispensers. And the chaff dispensers look like they're about to go in without any problem. So I'll go ahead and a little bit of super glue on each. It's in place. Go ahead and get this next one in. Last one for this side. Again, better be test fitting. And it's a good thing we did on that one. So I'm going to move on to another one. This is why we test fit. So I need to actually open this up a touch. And again, just to reiterate, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It means that the fit tolerances here are very good. You know, for the most part, the way the parts are supposed to fit was well engineered. That's a plus. That's not a bad thing. So we want to keep that in mind. As much as having to go back and open things up after we paint can sometimes be a pain. That, in addition, having to test fit everything is, oh gosh, you know, that's terrible. No, it's not. It keeps us honest. And make sure that we're testing things out the way they should be tested out. Chaff dispensers are all in place now for the port side. We'll go ahead and do the same now for the starboard side. Oops. That looks like it went real nice. So another thing I might add is, as you go along, if your house is like mine and full of pets, you will find that your parts are absolutely festooned with pet here as you go through and put this together. So I have found it helpful to, as I go, to remove pet hair. When I see it, I remove it instead of waiting until right before I'm ready to paint everything. That way I ensure that every time I see it, I can get it and I don't miss it. Alright, sixth and final chaff dispenser is on and in place, starboard side. Alright, so next up is these life raft canisters. These go into place in these brackets right here. This is one instance where I'm going to do one, and then we're going to speed up and do the rest. So, doesn't look like it's anything difficult to do, and probably want to start on the bottom one. There we go. Okay, so go ahead and get started here with D58. Just as a precursor to fitting these, I have actually already checked, make sure everything test fitted and went into place as planned. Hopefully my big head's not covering where this is going. Let's get this one. This one, bear in mind when you place it, and this is D15. There is a small door that needs to be facing outward rather than backwards, because it sits right there. So if you put it backwards, you won't be able to see this wonderful little detailed door right there. Be perfectly transparent, some of the holes I did have to drill out. Again, that's okay. Taking it in stride. Alright. So I get the starboard side done. The port side is pretty much just that, opposite, and it even says so in the instructions. It just says opposite. So I'm going to go ahead and worry about getting that done off camera, and be right back. Okay, so I think this is the last of our pieces that we've got prepared to put into this major superstructure part. And I'm going to go ahead, I've already tried test fitting the one, and it's very, very tight fit. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up a little bit here and go ahead and fit it in place. And then the rest we will do in, fast forward mode. So that, I'll go ahead and get on with it. One thing that's handy to notice when you're fitting these is the ladder on these is right there on the flat side where this key's in. You'll notice this thing is starting to get a little difficult to handle. Up there. Now it fits on quite a bit better. Okay, go ahead and get some glue. And again, bear in mind, you don't have to we're not setting up anything that's going to have to be able to hold an incredible amount of weight or anything like that, so just get enough in there to make sure that these hold in place properly after you stick them down. Okay, in place, looks the part. So I'll get these other two done in fast forward mode. Okay, so how can you be a kid again if after you get something like this put together you don't see how it looks? This isn't glued down, not even close yet, but it's just hard to resist not gluing it down. Let's have a look at that. That looks good. Looks like it belongs. We need some touch-ups. We do have to glue this in, and when we glue this in, we're going to have a slight little seam that we have to deal with here. And no, this is not pressed down all the way as far as it should be. But when we do get it pressed down, the seam's not going to be very much. We'll fill it, and we'll kind of mask this area off, sand it, and get it blended in properly. But for now, I just wanted to bask in the glow of good-looking progress so far. There we go. So where does that leave us right now? As far as this goes, we've got more to go on top of here. We have windows to go in here. There are railings. And by the way, maybe that's something that everyone can fill me in on real quick here. And it's been said that the Navy doesn't have windows. The Navy has portholes. But typically portholes are round. Are these portholes or are these considered windows? Seriously asking. Not being a smart ass here. But we've got to put the glass behind the portholes or windows. We've got to do some touch-up. We've got to get this secured. We've got to do some touch-up painting. I want to clear coat this as well. Then there's going to be some additional washes and things like that to help some of this detail really pop. We'll use some oil filters and things like that. And so it's got railings that go all around everything. So I'm going to go ahead and we will call the 3 build video 12s done, A, B, and C. We got through where we wanted to get in the instructions. Very happy with the progress so far. I will get some pictures and get those posted up here toward the very end of this. As always, you have any questions, comments, concerns, an answer for my porthole window dilemma, please feel free to leave that feedback for me in the comment section below. I like hearing the feedback, and I'm a big fan of getting better and doing better. Otherwise, why bother? So if you have any suggestions about what I can do video-wise to make this better, or something that you'd specifically like to see more of or in a different way, also let me know that too. And as always, I thank you very much for your time and thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed.